Narrator voice calm, then intense. She thought she was smart, sneaking off a few times a week, leaving our kids with her parents. But what she didn't know, I was already tracking every mile on her car. And when I finally uncovered the truth, I didn't just expose her cheating. I destroyed the life of the man she risked everything for. This is the story of how I turned betrayal into the sweetest revenge imaginable. If you've ever been cheated on or wished that karma would finally catch up to people who hurt you, stick around. This story is betrayal, lies, and one of the most satisfying revenge payoffs you'll ever hear. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more true stories, and let's dive in. It was the early 2000s. AOL was still king, and life for me seemed stable. My wife and I had 2 young kids, ages 4 and 6. They were at that innocent stage where kids love to tell you every detail of their day, what they ate, what games they played, who they saw. That's how I first noticed something was off. They started talking a lot about spending time at their grandparents' house, my wife's parents. Now, a visit once in a while made sense, but they lived over 90 minutes away. And suddenly, my kids were saying they went there too, even 3 times a week. Every time I asked my wife about it, she brushed it off. Oh, they just love spending time with their grandparents. But here's the thing. My wife was never a good liar. I could always sense the hesitation, the little cracks in her story. That gnawing suspicion grew, until finally I did what any paranoid husband in the early 2000s might do. I started secretly tracking the mileage on her car. And sure enough, there were hundreds of miles unaccounted for. 400 extra miles. Every single week. Something was definitely going on. Then one day, fate practically handed me the truth. I sat down at the family computer, and right there on the desk was a yellow sticky note. On it, my wife's AOL password. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it might actually crack my ribs. I knew I shouldn't. I knew that once I crossed that line, there was no going back. But curiosity, no, desperation, won. I logged in, and what I found shattered me. Buried in her emails were exchanges with her college best friend. In them, my wife casually bragged about hooking up with one of her ex-boyfriends from high school. She even mocked his wife, laughing about how she'd let herself go after kids. I just sat there, staring at the words on the screen. My stomach twisted. My hands shook. But I also felt something else brewing inside me, a quiet, calculated rage. I printed every email, stashed them away, because I wasn't going to confront her yet, not without a plan. I called up a buddy of mine, who was a cop. He put me in touch with a former detective turned private investigator. Let's call him Ron. Ron was old school, tough, professional, and methodical. I handed him the emails, explained my suspicions, and within weeks he came back with a full report, photos, timestamps, addresses. My wife had a whole system. She'd drop the kids at her parents', meet up with this guy for lunch, and then they'd sneak off to some rundown motel. Afterward, she'd pick the kids up and come home like nothing happened. Seeing the photos made everything sickeningly real. But it also gave me something else. Leverage. I knew divorce was the only option. I'd grown up in a home torn apart by infidelity. My parents cheated on each other, and it wrecked my childhood. I refused to let that cycle repeat. But I didn't just want to walk away. I wanted accountability. So, while my lawyer drafted divorce papers, I asked Ron to dig deeper. Who was this guy? Ron delivered again. His name was Bob, married with 3 kids of his own, VP of sales at his father-in-law's business, living in a house that, get this, was owned by his wife's parents. The hypocrisy burned me alive. He was destroying 2 families, yet living comfortably thanks to the very family he was betraying. That's when my plan clicked into place. On the day my wife was served divorce papers at her workplace, Ron had another delivery to make. He went straight to Bob's wife, with the entire PI report in hand. I wasn't sure what she'd do with it, but I knew she deserved the truth. And oh, did she deliver. According to public records, Bob's wife cleaned out their bank accounts, took the kids, and left him. When her father, Bob's boss, found out what happened, Bob was fired on the spot. Since the house they lived in belonged to her parents, he was evicted, too. But it didn't stop there. Their divorce turned into a battlefield. Police reports, restraining orders, even a broken nose courtesy of his brother-in-law. Bob spiraled. Jail time, criminal charges, and eventually, he disappeared. No online presence, no job in the industry, just gone. Meanwhile, his ex-wife thrived. She eventually took over her father's business. She turned her pain into power. As for me, the divorce was painful, but clean. I never fought with my ex over anything but the kids. I focused on being the stable parent they needed. And now, years later, those kids are grown. I don't speak to my ex anymore. I don't hate her, but she means nothing to me beyond the fact that she's their mother. Sometimes, when I look back, I don't even feel anger anymore. Just relief that I trusted my gut, stood up for myself, and made sure that the people who betrayed me paid the price. My wife thought she was just sneaking off for a fling. Bob thought he could juggle two families and get away with it. But in one move, their whole house of cards collapsed. She lost me. He lost everything, his wife, his kids, his job, his home, even his reputation. And all it took was the truth finally seeing the light of day. Betrayal cuts deep, but justice heals. Sometimes karma doesn't take years. It just needs a little push. And in this case, that push was me. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And of course, subscribe for more real stories where karma comes knocking harder than anyone ever expects.